Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Win Connections, October 29th to November 1st at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. Save $100 by using promo code TECH100 when registering. For more information, go to winconnections.com. Hover.com, domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. This is the show where we run down the top stories in tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. Of course, I'm joined by John, also known as Sunkast, to the interwebs. How you doing, John?
One and the same. If you hear somebody that's talking as John, that's me. If you hear somebody talking as Sunkast, that's me.
Well, there is John on the comic show, and there's the old John also. So there's a couple Johns that are associated to the GFQ network.
That's true.
A lot going on this week, guys, so we're going to go right into it. Today is the iPhone 5 release date. Millions of people around the world, well, East Coast, I guess in North America currently, right? Where else did they release it? I think the UK also. Well, around the world.
Well, that's a funny story, too, because I was reading that the London store was supposed to get a shipment, and they got it stolen from them somehow.
Millions around the world got their iPhone 5s today. About 2 million pre-ordered within the first 24 hours. Phenomenal record. Also, about 15% of Apple users have gone over to iOS 6 within the first 24 hours. It's amazing to me, and we're going to be very honest about all of it today. There's a lot I have to say about this. My wife actually had some hands-on experience with the iPhone 5. She has a 4S, and she said it didn't feel right to her. So we're going to go through it right now. 2 million sold within 2 million pre-orders within the first 24 hours, John. I mean, that's extremely impressive.
That's up from last year with the 4S when there was only about 1 million pre-orders. And that's crazy because there's a lot of conspiracies out there whenever you're talking about Apple, whether it's people that don't like Apple or people that are for Apple. There's always conspiracies. So initial number was like, oh, well, they were sold out within 60 minutes, but then another lot became available for pre-order. And so there was just this conspiracy of whether or not Apple was artificially making the demand high.
Of course they are.
5.
I mean, of course. You know what? In the year 2012, Apple, which is the largest company in the freaking world at this point, one of the biggest retailers in the world, knows how to do numbers. And the biggest tech company in the world knows how to do numbers, and they know how many people are going to walk into that store and want it. This is supply and demand. The more of a demand there is, the less supplies there are, and they want it that way. They want there to be this buzz. They want people lining up at the door at 3 o'clock in the morning because it creates a buzz around their product. You think Apple's stupid? You think it's a matter of, well, there's more people that want it than we have. No, it's not that.
I think it's hilarious. There was somebody that I remember last week when the event was happening, they were like, oh, I'm not interested in this event anymore. It's the same thing every year. I don't care. What did they do today? They stood in line at the Apple store and got an iPhone 5.
That's exactly what everybody does. It's exactly what everybody does.
You just said that you weren't interested in it whatsoever, and you were over at Apple and the iPhone, yet there you are with an iPhone 5.
Well, you know what it is. It's exactly what Apple does. At first, people are like, I don't want this, I don't need it, and the closer it gets, the more you want it, because you know somebody else is going to have it. It's a very, it's a very American thing. It's very American. Because you have it, now I must have it as well.
I got to have those LEDs behind you.
You do want those LEDs. You like them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look, I could change the light. Look at this.
And so does everybody else watching right now.
Yeah, it's great. It's $30 at IKEA. Go buy as many as you want. I mean, they're excellent. But it really comes down to that, and they've kind of we've become conditioned to want things we don't need, and that is what Apple thrives on. Yeah, they make a phenomenal phone. That's great, but you don't need one every year. But it's a fact that somebody else will have it, and you won't. That drives people to line up 3 o'clock in the morning. There were people lining up at the Cube, the Apple Cube in Manhattan. I was just there the other day. I was there on Sunday, John, and there were people with sleeping bags lined up already on Sunday.
And then you had people staying in line charging you $1,500 to take their spot.
Yeah,
Which I thought was crazy. You really want to pay somebody $1,500 for their spot in line? Just wait a month and you can get it for $1,500 less.
Or you could have gotten up at 3 in the morning and pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
How about that? I mean, that makes sense. But I was amazed. I mean, I was amazed that these people were on Sunday at 7 o'clock. I was at the Apple store with sleeping bags hanging out in the front, waiting. And I'm like, don't these people have anything to do?
No.
You know, when we were at Blog World, do you remember that? The Kanye West sneakers or whatever?
Yeah. And like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Like, I can kind of understand a new phone. I mean, that's something that I can kind of get excited about. Shoes, no.
Well, I'll tell you. So for people who don't know, we John was in New York for Blog World, and every day we were driving into Manhattan and driving back, and there was a Foot Locker there. And there were people camping outside for 2 weeks to get these Kanye West sneakers. And and I asked one of my friends that knows a little bit about sneakers, and I said, why are they waiting? He goes, because they're going to buy them and sell them. And I said, how much money can they make? Excuse me, my allergies are awful today. How much money can they make? And he said, about $400 off of one sneaker. And there's only you could order one or two. So they're sleeping in the streets for 2 weeks to make $400 potentially. They could have been working.
They could have been making that money.
They could have been making that money. It's just this whole thing where you got to have it. So 2 million pre-orders, great numbers. Now I know you want an iPhone 5.
That's crazy, despite the fact that the keynote itself, a lot of people were disappointed with the keynote overall. And yet, here we are with record numbers yet again.
So tell me about your experience, because you had some hands-on experience with the iPhone 5.
I went this afternoon and I looked at it in AT&T, Verizon, and the Apple Store, just for a little of a general comparison. And AT&T was the first place I went. It was interesting because when you walk up to it, you really, that screen size, they made it taller. But really, you only notice that if you're holding a 4S and the 5 side by side. Otherwise, you're not going to notice that it's bigger whatsoever.
Okay, I mean, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Really? I don't think, I
mean, then why make it bigger?
Well, I think that's the point. They don't want it to seem like it's a big phone.
Yeah, but if you're going to make it bigger and it doesn't look bigger, then why do it? Yeah,
I mean, it's a half an inch. They went bigger. I think that's a good thing, my personal opinion. How did it feel when you held it?
I'm with Jessica on this one, your wife, in that it feels really cheap to me compared to the 4S. They have the 5 and the 4S side by side there, and I was picking them up. And while the 5 is a lot lighter and thinner, it just doesn't have the same feeling of high class. When you're holding it, it's very plasticky compared to the 4S.
Well, a lot of the tech pundits out there were saying how it feels hollow.
Yeah,
that's how they described it. They described it as having a hollow feel to it.
Well, that's how the my iPod Touch is. I mean, it's got weight to it, but it still feels kind of hollow when you're pressing on it.
I'm surprised, So could you have bought one if you wanted to?
No,
you could. It was all out.
AT&T said they sold out at 9:30 in the morning.
But they open at what time? 6?
I have no idea. But just honestly, my first impression of actually seeing it in person, I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest. And I actually do want an iPhone, but I'm disappointed because it just doesn't necessarily have the same feeling. It doesn't feel like a great device in your hand. It doesn't feel like you have something special. You're not holding anything great and worthy of any other phone. Like a lot of the Android phones and stuff that's out there, it's all pure plastic. The only metal part in there is the CPU or whatever. And just for it to feel cheap like it is, that's just not really the way you would expect an Apple product to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bizarre complaint that people are complaining that it feels too light and feels too hollow, but you're not the only one. Many people out there have said the same thing. Jessica was playing around with one of her coworkers, went this morning, early in the morning, and got one. And she held it. She goes, I don't understand the big... It's exactly like the other one. It's just as fast. I mean, I'm sure it's faster, but what are you doing? How often are you using it to kind of need the demand of the CPU?
Well, that's kind of the conclusion that I came to, where, you could save yourself $100 and go with the 4S. The only thing you're going to miss is some of the hardware improvements and LTE. That's really the only improvement that you're going to get. But some of that stuff is really negligible. I mean, they say on paper that the processor is 2 times as fast as the 4S, but that's not something that you're normally going to notice.
I don't think half the people that have it would notice.
And it's the same with the screen. Unless it's side by side with the 4S, you really don't notice that it's taller. You really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of get that, but it's such a small increase in the size of the screen that to me, it makes absolutely no difference. I mean, honestly, if you don't give a crap about LTE, go with the 4S and save yourself $100, because both of these devices will do the same thing. They both support every single feature of iOS 6.
One thing that Apple does really well, and I'm curious to see real-time experience, and that's the battery life. LTE, every one of these LTE devices have awful battery life if you actually use, the LTE. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. If I'm on the train and I'm, just Twittering and Facebooking for a 25-minute ride, my battery life goes down 25% immediately.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'll only get
how it does in the real world.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really curious about that, because I don't think we've had any in real world. Well, they have the reviews out there and they say that it's got decent battery life for an LTE device, but then again, that's in their test. What about everybody else's test?
Yeah. I'm curious. Also, I'm really interested to see some actual photos from the camera, because it has that low light.
It's exactly the same.
Well, it has the low light stuff.
Yeah, I didn't test that, but I think from the test that I did, and as far as being able to look at it on the phone, I really can't tell a difference on the phone itself.
Yeah, I would like to see how it performs in actual low light.
The fact that they made a sleeker connector is nice, but I just wish the connector wasn't plastic, because at the Apple Store, they have it where it's actually dockable in a way where it sets on it. And I was honestly afraid that piece, a tab that plugs into the iPhone, could possibly break off.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And that just also adds to the fact that it feels cheap. There's too much plastic with it. And it's weird, because I think the white iPhone actually has a different color bezel around it, or sides. And I think that actually feels maybe a little bit better. I know it's probably not, but it's just the fact that it's so much plastic. There's no metal on it. It's just all the plastic that you find on every other phone. There's nothing that sets it apart from any other phone as far as the cosmetics go.
Since we're on the phone topic, on Wednesday, I was in Manhattan. Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott were in New York City for the HTC announcement. They unveiled their Windows phones. And I have to tell you, I've seen some of these phones, and they are impressive, and they might actually be better than the Nokia.
Really?
Yeah. I got a couple images here, courtesy of CNET. I'm going to pull them up now, but these are they look really good.
I'm very interested in your opinion on this, because in the notes, I've also included specs comparing all of the latest announced Windows Phone 8 devices, the the HTC 8X, the Samsung Ativ S, and the Nokia Lumia 920.
Well, first of all, look how thin this is.
Thinness doesn't really do anything for me. I just want a good phone.
Well,
it doesn't have to be thin.
Yeah,
as thin as possible. Like, to me, the fact that the iPhone 5 is thinner than the 4S, who cares?
Well, I'm pretty impressed by the phone, and the bigger story here is the fact that HTC is dedicated to Windows Phone. It says something about their relationship with Google, and it's probably, I really think a lot of these manufacturers are going to start leaving or not producing as many Android phones as they once were, because Google, has Motorola Mobility and they do their flagship, and it's not really worth it for them at this point. So they're looking for another side to go to. Some of the comparisons that I have, I think it's the Ativ, it's the Windows Phone 8X, and the Lumia. They're pretty similar, except when it comes down to a couple things. The battery is far larger on the Ativ than both of them. The display is smaller on the Windows Phone 8X, 4.3-inch screen. The camera, from what I heard on the HTC, is really good, and it also has a 2.1 megapixel wide-angle lens front-facing camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a better front-facing camera than the other guys. 1080p, obviously, video, and it's going to be on Verizon. It's coming out in November. I'm really interested in this phone.
Again, no pricing announced for any of this stuff.
Well, no, $199.
Pet peeve of mine.
No, I think it's $199.
I didn't see anything announced as far as price goes. Everything I read said no price.
Well, maybe I just leaked something then. Maybe I said something.
And that bugs me that you announce these devices, but you don't tell anybody how much they're going to cost.
It seems like that's the Microsoft thing to do now, right?
And to me, if you don't put a price to it, then I kind of just gloss over it, and I really don't care until it actually has a price. I don't know for sure that it's actually going to come out.
See, the Lumia is a thick phone. It's not a thin phone. And it's pretty heavy. It's 185 grams compared to 135 of the Ativ and 130 from the HTC device.
It's got pretty much the same dimensions as the Ativ S.
Ativ S. Yeah, it's very similar to that. But the Ativ S,
if you look at this chart, I mean, the Ativ S and the Nokia Lumia 920 are very similar overall.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to the 8X, and in my opinion, just looking at the specs, I would put the HTC 8X at the bottom of the three.
Really?
For me, it would be probably the Lumia 920, the Ativ S, and the HTC 8X.
Okay, why?
Specs-wise, man. That's all it is. I just think the fact that the 8X only has an 800 milliamp battery and only 16 gigabytes of internal storage, and that's it. There's not even external storage for it.
Yeah. The display is pretty nice.
The sad thing is that's their flagship Windows 8 phone. They also announced Windows Phone 8S, which is a mid-range handset, but it's even worse compared to that. I'm like, I don't know why you would go anything less than the 8X.
Because it's probably going to be $99 and $199.
Yeah, well, then you don't even need a phone.
Yeah.
Spend an extra $100 and get a decent phone.
Listen, some people don't want to. All right, pick a story.
Let's see. I gotta scroll up here. This is something that I found really interesting, is the fact that Fox announced and kicked off its digital HD initiative by joining Google Play and YouTube, offering movies early. And I think this is a very awesome thing. What's happening is that Fox is now offering all of their content to be downloadable in HD form and rented from like Google Play, YouTube, iTunes, etc. And the big part about this is that even the movies that are coming out, they're going to offer it 3 weeks before it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, and it'll actually be cheaper to buy as a download than it would be to actually go to the store and actually buy a physical copy of the movie that you want.
Okay, so how much would it be to download it?
Well, the movie that they're talking about here in the article is Prometheus, and it's going to come out 3 weeks before it does on Blu-ray. And they said that it's going to cost about $15 to buy.
Okay, I mean that's not bad.
I'm assuming that's buy price because nobody would rent it at $15. I mean, $15 to actually buy it and download it, that's not bad at all.
You know what though? I wouldn't mind renting it for $15 3 weeks before the DVD comes out. You're gonna watch it once.
Mm.
You know, a couple of years ago we did this story. I think it was about a year and a half ago we ran a story like this, and they were saying how they would charge like $30 to rent the movie 3 weeks before it came out. And the reason why they did that is because they said, well, it's not going to be one person watching it, and the average price for movie tickets and popcorn is like $30 now.
Yeah.
So that's how they justified it, that you're going to be spending $30 anyway. But I think for $15, this is well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very happy and pleased that it's only going to be like $15 to buy an HD download of a movie.
You know, I'll tell you,
just rent them, because if you go to YouTube, you can rent HD movies for like $3 or $4, and that's pretty cool. But to actually be able to buy it for only $15, that's a great price. I can definitely see myself doing that if I find a movie that I really, 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 really like.
So it's only 3 weeks before, and it's Fox Films.
Yes.
When is Batman coming out? I'm just curious. It's not a Fox film, but like I'll give you an example. Yesterday, you know, I was laying in bed and my wife and I were saying, well, oh, you know, I want to see the Batman stuff. I want to watch all of them. Like I want to sit there and watch from the original, you know, 1988, 89 Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, all the way through the current Batman. No, there was no Batman on Netflix.
That's how long
or
you
Hulu.
haven't been to a movie?
I haven't been to the movies. No, you know what? No, I went and I saw The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo Christmas Eve, and it was a really good movie. It was a really good movie. But I would like to have an option. And to be honest with you, if they gave me an option and said, okay, well, when the movies are out in the theaters, for $50, you could rent the movie at home. I would rent the movie at home.
That's because you're different than everybody else. There's no way I would pay $50 to see a movie at home.
Like we get screeners, like we get screeners that I don't talk about, and like I have a buddy that works for one of the people. I'm gonna give it away if I say who it is, but I have a buddy that works for a studio, and we get screeners to some movies. And I always said, like, I would pay a lot of money. Like I would pay $50 to watch the movie I want to watch at home and not go to the movie theater.
But you're different than most people. I don't think most people would be willing to do that.
I just don't want to. I don't want to get infested with feces and lice.
That's what I'm saying. That most people don't see it that way. You're different. You're crazy. You're nuts.
You know what? There's a lot of people like me. There's a lot of people like me.
No.
Why? I don't understand. Like the whole movie theater experience.
I don't have any problem going to the theater.
People like, oh, well, the quality of the movie is so good. Nothing's going to beat my 1080p video. I have a big screen, flat screen TV on my wall. I have a beautiful surround sound in my bedroom. I could just sit there. If I want popcorn, I can have all the popcorn in the world. Nobody's going to charge me an arm and a leg. And I could sit there and not worry about some idiot sitting in front of me and asking questions throughout the entire movie. And I won't get lice. I won't have feces on my seats.
It must be really different for movie theaters in New York than here.
Why? We don't get shot at our theaters.
We don't have feces on ours.
No, instead you get shootings.
Not here.
No, you're in a good part. I know.
Yeah.
I know. You have to tell us. We know. Detroit is awful. We understand.
I'm in the suburbs. I'm not in Detroit, so.
I like to tell people that I once told someone you're in like the heart of Detroit and you're putting yourself through college, and before this you made hip-hop videos. Like you directed hip-hop videos. I said that to somebody once, and they believed me. So yeah. I don't know, but I think this is a pretty cool idea to be able to get the movie. Listen, people want things early,
and for $15, you know, if renting it is going to be $4, I might as well just buy it for $15.
Hey, I want to talk about the Kickstarter story.
Okay.
Go into it, and I have a lot to say about this actually.
So a lot of people know about Kickstarter. It's a website where you can do crowdfunding, where you post, let's say you're in a band and you want to make an album, but you need some money to cover the cost of studio recording. And you can post on Kickstarter with the video saying, this is my project, this is what I'm doing. If you want to donate money to me, I'll give you a signed copy of the CD when we're done recording it.
Or I'll give you credit. It's like different perks for different levels of donation.
Right. And so now Kickstarter has actually gotten very popular with a lot of people that are trying to come up and invent gadgets and stuff. And Kickstarter has actually said that they want to tighten these rules so that there's not so many of these people out there that are coming up with projects which are just things that they've dreamt up in their head that they want to do.
Yeah.
And there's, of course, a big risk with a lot of these projects that people don't know once you go through with this. There's no guarantee that the person that you're donating this money to will actually create this product or this album. And that's what a lot of people are worried about. So Kickstarter is actually saying that they are not going to accept any projects whatsoever if all you have is a rendering or a drawing of whatever the product is that you want to make and have people donate money to you for.
So you have to have some sort of prototype.
Yes, you have to have some sort of working prototype. Let me see if I can find... instead, creators must provide photos or video of prototypes as they exist at the time of posting. So it has to be when you actually go and create this post. And it can't be a month after you start collecting money. You say, oh, well, here's a prototype. Here's what it would look like. It has to be when you post the project on Kickstarter.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a really good idea because there's been I like Kickstarter. And I haven't pledged anything because by the time I find the stuff that I like, they're kind of sold out. And they've met like their pledge goal by like 600%. But there's been times that I've looked at something, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I want to donate. And then I find out that there's nothing. It's just, you know, a concept.
Right. And now they're also being required to disclose any risk and challenges that a project might face. Because a lot of times these projects, they have production delays or escalating material costs. So it becomes more than what they thought it was going to cost them. And that becomes a bigger issue for the people that are donating money. They never get what they were promised in return.
There's a lot of podcast donations people are asking for.
There's a lot of stuff on there.
I don't get that. Like, we've never done a show. Give me money. 3 guys, 1 cup podcast. 3 high school friends come together to fill a cup of knowledge. Comedy podcast covering all aspects of geek and culture. So these guys want, for $500, all previous 10 show sponsors with 1-minute ads. So you could get an ad on a show that nobody listens to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Big whoop.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, I really do think they should tighten stuff up on Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is the main one of these donating ones. I forgot what the other one was. There's another donation site. I forgot what it is. And that one is open internationally. And with that one, if you don't reach your goal, you can still keep the money and the people that donated get whatever it is. So there's really no risk. But I'm looking at, there's some really cool stuff on Kickstarter, and I really think it makes it easier now to find products that exist.
There's a lot of stuff that is just not worth it, though, in my opinion, on Kickstarter.
You don't think so? Why? Like what?
I think there's a lot of products. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just, I don't know if it's just me, and there's a lot of stuff that I honestly don't care about. Like the Pebble watch, whatever that was. I don't understand why people donate to stuff like that. It's just a useless thing to me. It's neat, but
Indiegogo, that's
useful.
the one. Thank you, Mike. Indiegogo is another one of these sites like Kickstarter. And a lot of people are attracted to that because there's no, you could be international and ask for stuff. Help us make our first album. Yeah, see, it's a lot of those. They have 6,000.
A lot of people that are trying to create animated videos. I'm like,
Comic books, there's a lot of those people wanting to create comic books.
I can understand bands using this. I think this is a great tool for bands out there. As many people know, I've actually donated to a couple bands on Kickstarter, Anahea and 5 Iron Frenzy, which are great bands that I've been a longtime fan of. And so when the opportunity arose, I was, of course, willing to donate money to them.
So they're going to tighten shit up. Oof, that was a nice slip. Tighten the ship up. I can tighten shit up too if they want. Yeah, I think that's great. No, I haven't taken anything. I think that's the problem. I think that's really cool. I think that's actually good.
It's one of those places where there's just so much stuff on there where it's very hard to gauge the risk that's involved in some of this stuff.
Yeah. I want to touch on Apple again a little bit. Their mapping service, their new app for maps, they got rid of Google Maps and they have their own mapping service that's done by TomTom, and it is a mess.
Yeah.
It's an utter mess, and I have it on my iPad, and I was playing around with it, and it's like there are times that you're looking at a map and you're scrolling, and literally you fall off a cliff. Like you enter this bizarro world of where things aren't, like a straight line is no longer straight, and there's like a huge, gigantic boulder in front of you. Like it's really bizarre how it is. So they're realizing, and a lot of people are complaining that this is just not working.
I find this very interesting, the fact that they've done all this beta testing, and during all those beta tests, they didn't see any of these problems. How's it that they went through all this beta testing for iOS 6 and nobody thought, oh, this really sucks, we need to do something and fix this?
Yeah, well, Apple came out and said, well, this is just phase 1 of it. It's just going to get better. This is from the ground up.
To me, that's still very unusual for Apple to do something like that. To even say that. They're a company that, in my opinion, when they release something, they release it for a polished product. They're not doing something that's half-assed out there. And yet, that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like they just kind of haphazardly put together this Maps application.
Yeah, I'm just going here. I'm just trying to pull up something on my map.
The quality it goes back to the cheap feeling of the iPhone 5. It's just, where's the quality? And I don't know if this is all Tim Cook's doing with some of this stuff, but it's not the Apple that I've come to expect.
Well, I'm no
Siri, Apple fanboy, and I'm no Apple hater.
But let me tell you, Siri was an incomplete thing, and it was a beta.
It wasn't awful, though. It didn't have the same mistakes like this Maps application has. It doesn't have islands that are repeated or an airport icon on top of a farm.
Yeah, there's a lot of glitches here. So people are pointing their finger to TomTom, and TomTom saying, no, it's not us. I'm curious how this is going to play out. I'm sure they're going to start fixing a lot of these problems. They're going to realize that there's a problem. Internationally, it's awful.
Oh, yeah.
Awful. I mean, I think The Verge had an article, and they were showing Japan, and it was just so different. I mean, Google Maps compared to this, night and day.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. It's like, why do you have a program or an application, a Maps application, where it's duplicating islands and parts of things and just putting cities where they don't belong?
Yeah. Microsoft announces Office 2013 and 365 pricing. I actually think this is pretty cool. It's $99 a year for 365 pricing, covering your entire household. It's not tied to a single person or account, and each person uses the service and application can sign in with their own Microsoft account with a custom online document store, setting sync, all that stuff. You also get use of Office up to 5 PCs. You could get 5 PCs if you buy Office. Obviously, you could take it over to the Mac, Windows, it doesn't matter. It's 5. You get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook. They've gotten. I think this is great in a world where Google Docs is offered for free. They really have to compete with it, and I think this is a very aggressive way to compete with it.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely, we use Google Docs for what we do, but I absolutely hate it.
It just has never gotten better.
No, it hasn't.
I mean, it works, but it just hasn't gotten better, and that's the whole problem with Google, is that they come up with these great products, but then they never really finish them.
Yeah, well, here's the issue with it. I mean, if you're trying to convert a doc with bullet points, and I brought this up on What to Tech, if you're trying to convert a doc file, and open it up in Google Docs, and it has bullet points, sometimes it won't convert properly.
Mm-hmm.
You lose certain things. Sometimes it triple spaces certain words. There are issues with it. So I welcome this because I would rather use Office than Google Docs for what I do.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I don't think the pricing is terrible either. I think it's a fairly reasonable price for what they offer, and the fact that you can use this with anybody's account, basically. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and the fact that now you could, if you buy a CD, if you're buying Outlook or Office, and you're paying, whatever, $199 for it, you get everything rather than paying the $500 that it used to be for the full version, and you get to install it on more than one computer.
But I also like the fact that they do offer just outright buying it traditionally, which I think is great. I like the fact that they have the option there where you can, if you wanted to, you could do the subscription service where you get the cloud storage and all that stuff. But if you really wanted to, you could still just buy it and install it on a computer.
Do you think they're going to eliminate that? Do you think eventually they're going to kill off the actual application?
Eventually that could be a possibility, but the fact that, can you use this in offline mode? That's what it kind of comes down to is how well does this work if you're actually offline? If you need to work on a document and you're like on an airplane.
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll obviously have to support that to some extent if they're going to phase out the traditional Outlook and they make everything on the cloud, Outlook and Word. They're going to have to put that all.
Office, you mean?
Well, I'm saying the applications. Yeah. The Office suite. They're going to have to give offline support for everything if they kill off the application.
Right, and I'm not sure that I don't think even Google does it completely well right now because there's a lot of stuff that they offer offline access to, but I still don't think it works as well as it could.
Yeah. Verizon Galaxy Nexus owners will be happy to hear that Jelly Bean has finally arrived, and they're starting to roll out the Jelly Bean updates to Galaxy Nexus owners that have Verizon. I've unlocked my phone. I've rooted my phone, so it doesn't matter to me. But it took them so long to do this.
It's been out for, 3 months now?
3 months, and GSM got it first, and now Verizon's getting it. And this is just the backwards mentality of the way that things are unrolled with Android.
Yeah. But it's difficult to place blame because carriers in general don't want to change anything.
I've always been amazed that nobody's sticking to the Apple model where they handle the updates.
Yeah, I mean, you find these problems with the operating system updates, not just with Android, but with basically any operating system on any phone that they sell.
Now let me ask you, if you going in and buying an Android phone, right? Does that bother you? Does that determine what phone you're going to buy, knowing that you may not get an update?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I read this article where they were saying, no, nobody's affected by that. But I do think people are affected by that.
No, I'd honestly try to go for something that's either current or pure Android.
Yeah, well, the pure Android experience is also going because most people are now, most manufacturers are putting whatever Motorola Blur or whatever Samsung is putting on there, and it ruins the entire phone. I mean, that's a major problem.
The Samsung S3 today, and I was just appalled at how awful that was. But then again, my experience, I think, is kind of skewed because it was a demo phone at a store inside of a mall. So
wait a minute, who knows how long? You didn't like the S3?
No, but like I said, I think my experience was skewed because this was a device that's inside of a mall where there's a constant flow of traffic and there's so many people doing so many things to this device that it's just at this point, without reformatting and redoing it completely over again, that you're never going to have a decent experience with the phone.
What didn't you like about it?
Oh, it was slow. It was sluggish. The internet was virtually useless on it. But then again, like I said, this is inside of a mall, so I don't know how much of that actually affects what's been done to this device and how bad it really is.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, traditionally, this location, I've never had any good experience with any of the phones that I've tried in store at this location.
That's fascinating. So you think people playing around with the phone is going to affect how well it runs when you go to try, test it?
Well, the guy told me flat out that he said, I was trying to load a video from our website, and I was like, it's not working. Oh, we'll try this one. I don't think it's been used as much as this blue one has.
That's really funny.
And then I tried it on the white one, and it still didn't work. I was like, screw this, and I freaking left. I
Walmart.
sat there 5 minutes trying to load a stupid video, and it didn't even work.
Walmart is reported to stop selling the Amazon Kindle from their stores. This is according to Reuters. They're looking to not sell the device, and I know that they've been discussing having their own tablet, own consumption device, and this may be a step forward for them to do this. You know, Amazon right now, they've always been looked at as an online retailer, but because they become so dominant, do you feel that places like Walmart and Target are now backing off and they're saying, okay, well, this is scary because they're taking over the entire industry when it comes to retail? I don't know if that has to do with it, or if the fact that they're looking to get a consumption device for Amazon, for Walmart, and you could be in the Walmart experience at all times.
Oh gosh, no. Walmart has tried that before with their own CD store and digital stuff, and
it's failed.
It failed horribly. Nobody gave a crap about going into Walmart and exchanging their disc, their DVD for a digital copy. Nobody liked that. It was horrible. I forget what it was. I think they had their own digital music store, I think it was, or something digital.
They did, yeah.
And it was horrible. And I think that was around the time where DRM was really big, and a lot of companies out there wanted to have their DRM protected stuff, and it was just a horrible way of dealing with music. And Walmart was heavily into having DRM'd music in their stores. So once they even shut down, it was just like you lost all that music that you bought from them.
I'm looking here. When did they shut down the store?
Oh, I don't remember. I vaguely remember it. I just don't remember the timeline.
Yeah.
But that to me, based on that experience, I would not want a Walmart tablet of any sort. I wouldn't want anything branded Walmart, to be honest.
Sure, yeah. Verizon also is getting ready for their fall lineup of products. Next few months, we're going to see a lot of Android phones. Possibly no fewer than 6 hardware makers will be involved in a brand new line of Verizon Android phones. And I think this is so silly that they have so many of these. It really is. The LG Spectrum, the Samsung Stratosphere, these are all lower-end Android devices. And you're also going to have the Droid Razr HD and the Droid Razr Max HD, which are nearly identical. The Droid Incredible X is another one that's going to be coming out. And ZTE is going to release a couple tablets for Verizon. It really is that Verizon is an Android. I mean, they're big fans of Android.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder why, though. I mean, having so many phones, does it help them?
I think it does well for them. Weirdly.
But who's going to buying like the lower end Android phones?
It's whatever they can hype up at the time. Yeah, and I think that's kind of why they get away with saying, oh, this is the latest, greatest. You want this. This is what you want. It's the latest and greatest.
They're also tossing around the idea of a couple of Windows Phone 8 devices, probably in November. That I'm looking forward to. I would like to see a decent Windows Phone 8 on Verizon because we did not get anything last year with Windows Phone 7. We really didn't get much as far as the phones went. I think AT&T got the best ones, which they did. They got the Nokia, so they're going to be getting it.
But that's kind of how it is when you get first and second generational devices. I mean, you remember, I mean, even the iPhone, AT&T was the only carrier for, 2-3 years.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. All right, so guys, we're going to wrap it up a little early today. About 10 minutes early. Because I don't have a pick of the week. So I had nothing to pick from.
You can talk about the Verizon CFO real quick if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which I think is really telling. And this is a guy that has made a lot of crazy statements in the past. Verizon CFO Fran Shammo, which we've heard from in the past with crazy comments, made a very interesting comment at today's Goldman Sachs investor conference. He said, unlimited is just a word. It doesn't really mean anything. So
yeah, that's been their point for a long time. That's what they've been saying.
Yeah, and then he kind of dug the hole even deeper by saying that whole unlimited thing, I think, is going by the wayside. And that, to me, is just like, are you kidding me? This is how you really feel about people out there that have unlimited plans that are trying to hold on to them. And it's just it's very, I don't know what the word is, but it's just bizarre. In
I
my
mean, did
opinion, for
unlimited
somebody to say
ever
something.
did unlimited ever mean unlimited?
Yeah, of course.
It did. Because
I
I
think
remember,
so.
I always remember unlimited meaning 5 gigs.
Well, I don't know, because in like 2007, I don't think, and that's kind of the difference is that until 3G got really fast, and then I think even the initial years of 3G and smartphones really took off as far as what they're capable of, you weren't really able to even reach 5 gigabytes.
Yeah, I mean, even when 3G came out, 3G came out a long time ago, and nobody was getting internet on their phones. It was just flip phones with 3G.
Yeah.
Nobody was
And
getting
I
it. I
think
mean, it
that
was useless.
had something to do with it. And now the fact that devices are capable of doing just as much as your computer and just as fast as your computer, you almost need an unlimited plan in a way.
Uh, but here's the thing: unlimited doesn't exist for all, even broadband carriers.
No, but I mean, I think it's got a lot higher tolerance, and I think a lot of it also depends on where you live. I mean, there's areas where I know for a fact that you have a soft cap and a hard cap. I mean, there's Comcast. Sometimes they have a soft cap, depending on your area. Sometimes it's a hard cap.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think these statements are just very inflammatory.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll ever see unlimited when it comes to 4G. They don't want you to have unlimited with LTE because you're more inclined to cancel your at-home service if you knew you were going to get unlimited, 4G service.
Yeah, but I think they're going to have to come to somewhat of the same realization as the broadband operators, and the fact that once you have these higher speeds, as what we're seeing now, when you have 100 megabits per second, you have to offer users a higher cap just because they're able to burn through data so much faster, which is what Comcast is doing now. They've been taking a look at what realistically their cap should be, and they've actually said that we think we're going to raise it to about 300 gigabytes per month for our lower tiers, and 600 gigabytes if you're over 100 megabits per second.
Yeah.
And you're just not seeing the same sort of consideration when it comes to wireless ISPs and Verizon with their data plans. They're charging you an insane amount of money for very little data, and the fact is that it's almost as fast as your home connection now. And because of that, the proportions are out of whack because you can use so much data so much quicker than you could before.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the pricing did not grow with the technology.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Sunkast, let's wrap it up. Amadeus.
Yep.
Talk about it.
That's my website where I post videos from YouTube of artists that are not well known. They're not mainstream. They're not on the radio or anything like that. But they have amazing vocals, amazing voices, and they have some cool videos out there. They do cover songs of whatever is popular out there. They're just fantastic people that you would never know of unless this is posted on a website or you find them on YouTube by some chance. And I love discovering new music like that, so I always find them on YouTube. And whatever I find, I usually post on my website, which is Amadeus. It's spelled AMADAIS.com.
Also, if you miss any portion of this show, go to our website, guysfromqueens.com. You could also go to stream site gfqlive.tv to watch it live. We're on Zoom, we're on iTunes, we're pretty much everywhere you can imagine. Until next time, guys, enjoy your technology.